Well, speaking of crazy shit, it's time for the listeners respond.
Okay.
EJ from Darlington says that with no medical issues, shitting yourself once every 5 years is acceptable. So you said once every 4 years.
Yeah, ish.
If you're an adult, how many times per year is it acceptable to poop yourself? EJ says he's got to give people one more year that they can reset than you were willing to give them. So 0.2 for him, 0.25 for you. He elaborated. He said, the closest I came recently is when my asshole cousin took me out to dinner with his family. We went to Olive Garden, and he took the scenic route home to show me around. I finally looked at him and said, take me home now. I didn't shit my pants, but I had a splash landing. So I think EJ's demonstrating there are instances in which it's out of your control.
Yeah.
Even as a responsible adult, you might not be able to take control of the situation.
Yeah.
EJ's very forthcoming. I think taking a cue from you.
Excellent.
He wants to make sure that people understand, he's not perfect. He last shit his pants in Fredericksburg, Virginia on I-95, driving from New Jersey to South Carolina. He was sick. I-95 turned into a parking lot. So there's a good real-world example of why we ask the hard questions at WNUT.
Okay.
Now, Shanna, my darling baby sister, says 0 if you're a healthy adult. You need to get that scene about otherwise.
Yeah.
So she's just cut it off there.
She and I see a little bit more eye to eye. I'm a little bit more forgiving because I'm imagining at some point something bad around you is happening, and that's why I said about once every 4 years something might happen.
Natalie from North Augusta says 3 times.
Really?
I asked her to elaborate. She said, quote, I work at a library, and I've seen some shit from the general public.
Wow.
And I think she meant that literally and figuratively.
Man.
Someone named Captain Destructo says 1 time per year is allowed. He says that once in the 8th grade, he got sick on a field trip, and this happened to him 1 step from the toilet. Circumstances do arise where control is not always in our grasp.
I mean, he was close, though.
Yeah, and see, that's kind of like what EJ was saying. If it's something that you're trying as hard as you can, you're trying desperately to get to that turlet.
Yeah.
But, fate has something else in store for you. Yavana, that's a name I feel like I've seen on this show before. Yavana says
I've heard that
0
name
times.
Yeah.
She does not elaborate. She just says, nope, right there, 0. Haley from the beautiful Pacific Northwest says none. There are designated spots, which she points out includes restrooms or, quote, a hole in the ground.
Yeah, or scat parties.
Yeah. Which brings us to Heather from Beach Island. She says, per year, none. I get things happen and you're on the verge of it sometimes, but you always have a tree or bathroom around. I was intrigued, so I asked, you would just projectile shit on a tree? And she replied, done it before. So I demanded the story, and here it is. Had biscuits and gravy one morning, was in the woods deer hunting, and my stomach said go now. So I found a downed tree and let go.
All right, now what do you do if you're in the Midwest, like in the Plain States?
I don't know. I mean,
like in Kansas, you just don't have trees laying around.
Why do you need a target? I feel like Haley's hole in the ground is the better option.
I mean, that is a target technically.
Yeah, but it worked for Heather from Beach Island. Paul from Connecticut, you may remember, he was the first to chime in on our "Would you at work for 1,000" question.
Yeah.
He actually says if he gets $1,000 for it every time, the number he allows per year is 52.
Oh, you know what though?
He would just have himself an easy second gig there.
Yeah.
I told him no, he won't get paid for this.
I think the tough part there is getting a job to then shit yourself. And I think after the second or third time, they're going to let you go.
Yeah.
And then having to explain that at
which
the
goes
next
back to what
job.
Machine was saying. She was like, I'm not doing this at work because I'll get fired.
Yeah, okay. So one of our interns has mentioned that adult diapers would make it so they'll never know. If you're getting $1,000 a piece, you know what? At that point, I might be going in for $50,000-$60,000 a year.
Yeah.
And
you didn't think about the potential.
I thought this
for
was a one-time
business.
thing, and the answer there is no.
Yeah, I had to tell Paul no. This would not. You wouldn't get paid for this one. So now his number is 0.25. He agrees.
Okay, so he's back to the once every 4 years.
Yeah, well, yeah. So he agrees with you, much like you, and I think it was Billy from Eastman last time. You and Paul here have parity in your Duke allowance.
Yeah.
Amanda from Atlanta, which I desperately wish rhymed better than it does, says at least once, but it has to be an accident or an emergency.
Yeah.
So in the case of you just can't help it, you're one step from the turlet.
Yeah.
Like
or you have the flu.
like poor Captain Destructo was. Amanda will allow 1 a year. Cameron from North Augusta says 1 pass is acceptable. Quote, you should let it slide 1 time because everyone has sharded or something.
Okay.
That's Cameron's.
Yep.
You know, so we get a lot of the ones, you know, we get a lot of people saying once every maybe 4 or 5 years. Brett from Columbia says 0, honestly. He then says he'd be more forgiving of puking on yourself in a drunken stupor. You know, that's a possible topic for another day. Roseanne from Shell Bluff says 3. She understands, as she puts it, unhappy tummy moments that can't totally be helped.
Yeah.
So 3 times a year.
Well, I mean, okay, so there's going to be situations, I think, that modify this because I was going for myself.
Yeah.
You know, so if somebody has some sort of a condition, a sickness, or maybe if they're pregnant or something, you're going to have some other situations going on there that I'm not counting into my value of, you know, once every 4 years, I think is acceptable. Because honestly, if you're doing it more than that, to me, you need to find out why.
And see, I liked the idea of about 2, I said, just as a fun sort of social game, like, you know, my example of, hey, you're in church and you can't get to the restroom because, like, you know, the sanctuary's, no pun intended, clogged up with people. So you just seize the moment, you throw it right there in the sanctuary, and then what's anybody going to do? You know? But now Roseanne has taken it above and beyond
maybe
that.
hit you with some holy water? I don't know.
It says 3. What'd you say?
That'd be holy shit.
Holy shit, yes.
Yeah.
Nasheen from Houston is back. Chiming in. She says, and I quote, never, ever, ever, ever.
Have I ever?
Right. She's not
Everybody
feeling,
take a drink.
She's not feeling the duking for 1,000, and she's not feeling the how many times per year is it acceptable as an adult.
No.
So I then offered for WNUT to raise $1,000 for her to poop herself at work, and she declined.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was going back to last episode's hot button topic, 2 episodes ago's hot button topic, and she's not feeling either one. I will keep bugging her about any poop related discussions that we should have, but you know they're not all going to be poop related.
No,
we've got one coming up that we'll discuss that is not indeed poop related. So you know, as we discuss these things and as we debate these said hot button topics, we want you to keep hitting us up. You know, keep letting us know how you feel. Carl waits with bated breath until he knows what you all think about whatever we've already discussed. It's important to us to know how you guys would chime in on these things. So,
and honestly, ask us questions.
Yeah.
If you have a burning question.
Oh, and there's going to be an opportunity for that coming up real soon.
All right.
About Mr. Carl here.